alongside the likes of kettlebell legend Valerie Federico. What sort of insights did you get from him that you might not have had before, like actually dealing with someone who's so high up in the game?
It was very interesting. I mean, what we do and what we try and do is make sure we go and see as many people as possible. You know, we've travelled the world to a certain extent, and to get in front of other guys, and you know, some of the best lifters, Valerie being one of those. We've had some great times out in Greece, training with the World Kettlebell Club, Valerie in particular, and all of the other athletes in Greece. You know, it's great being in front of lifters like that, some of them starting at the age of 7, just seeing that what people can actually do with a kettlebell. It's hard to sometimes get a lot out of them because they all speak Russian or Greek, and we don't speak either of those. So sometimes a lot of the stuff is lost in translation. But we certainly have, seen a lot from them. And when we first started lifting kettlebells, and over the first couple of years, what we learned was great, and we learned a lot from ourselves and learned a bit from other people. But seeing the lifters and the kettlebell sport athletes took it on another level, and it really got us into the whole belief about, you know, training for time. Obviously, the kettlebell sport itself is a competition over 10 minutes for the jerks and the snatches, and it really got us on board with that as well. And those guys, as I said, it's hard to understand what they're saying sometimes, but they certainly did teach us a lot, and some new ideas, refining our technique slightly, bringing in new training methods perhaps. So it was a great, it's been a great experience being in front of those guys, definitely.
Excellent. Well, speaking of the kettlebell world, most people who are listening to this and they've looked into kettlebell training will probably have heard of the likes of Steve Cotter and Pavel Tsatsouline, and they tend to promote kind of different styles in terms of the hardstyle and softstyle. Can you tell us what the difference is and when you might use each method?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, I think the key thing is that all movement is good movement, and anyone kind of arguing differently needs to have a think about it. Any movement is good movement. All kettlebell exercises are good if done properly. There is lots of people going on about hardstyle versus softstyle and the differences and what's better and why you should do one. They're both good. You look at the athletes that come out of Pavel's kind of style of lifting; they're great. Similar to the other side of lifting. So just to kind of say what is different about it, the hardstyle, it's more looking at power and speed and doing things quickly. For example, the kettlebell swing, you'd be snapping it out and trying to extend your hips all the way through and really promoting power out of each lift. Very similar there would be the snatch, trying to snap out the hips, promote that power. And the soft style has, I don't know if you really call it a soft style, it's kettlebell sport. It's being efficient and being technically very, very good with the kettlebell. So although every repetition looks more relaxed and looks possibly a little bit easier, it's exactly the same every single time. So, for example, if we're performing a snatch for kettlebell sport or soft style, it's each one should be exactly the same. There's some technical difficulties in there that you need to get exactly right, and it's a relaxed, efficient movement almost, and that's where people call it the hard style versus the soft style. And as we take it all on board, we think it's all great. There's no right or wrong answer to a certain extent. All movement is good, as I've already said. I can't really. I wouldn't go down one side and say I'm on this side, because I'm not. I'm in the middle almost. We use it all ourselves. We teach lots of different courses, and we teach both sort of areas of it. We don't necessarily call it a hard or soft. We just call it kettlebell training.
Yeah, it's the whole thing of just get everything in your toolbox. Don't just focus on one thing, I guess.
Hey, absolutely, mate. Yeah, you've got to obviously apply what's going to be right for your client. To a certain extent, I would say, to start off with, you want to look at the basics and getting the body moving properly with a kettlebell, and then you can focus on kind of, doing kettlebell sport, or going down the route of doing some maybe more intense, hardcore type exercises with kettlebells.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the kettlebell is a weight. Use it to lift.
Yep. Excellent. Right. Now, obviously, kettlebell is getting more and more popular. One of the problems I see is that some people are kind of launching into it before they really know what they're doing. Like you say, they're not kind of getting the movements down first. They want to get into the rough stuff straight away. What are the key mistakes a lot of people tend to make in terms of technique and the way they approach their training?
Well, I think it's probably just you've almost said it there. They probably will just pick the bell up and start swinging it around, and not bearing in mind what the body should actually be doing within that exercise. The kettlebell exercises, swings, snatches, cleans, are all very much posterior chain dominant, and because of that, you need to strengthen the posterior chain up well and correctly. We want our glutes to be working a lot, and if perhaps people just go straight in the deep end and don't worry about the basics of getting even just a basic deadlift or a two-arm swing or a stiff leg deadlift working properly, and then they just hammer on with the harder exercises, they may lose some of that. So technically, some of the key things would be kind of looking at how the kettlebell moves. It's got that handle, it's got that massive weight further away from the body and further away from your hand. That moves around, that kind of comes up and bangs on your forearm if you're getting it incorrect, and that takes time to develop and learn. But also on the flip side of it, picking up a kettlebell and lifting it and throwing it around a bit is good fun, and it's going to get the body moving. So I guess there's two answers to that, and maybe it depends what your client is, really. Depends what your client's like and whether they're conditioned enough to pick up a bell in the first place. If they're not conditioned enough, then you should start off the basic lifts. If they are conditioned, then yeah, maybe you can push them.
And that's one thing I found, that you get a lot of people saying, oh, do swings, they're great for the posterior chain, but at the end of the day, if your glutes aren't working and you've got low back pain already, I think you're just going to end up with worse back pain, you're going to end up with tighter back muscles, so you could actually be doing yourself a disservice, really.
Yes and no. Again, it depends on the client. There's a little bit of a tip there in that get on and do it, and things tend to happen with a kettlebell.
Yeah.
But there's also the other flip side of that says, you should train them, progress them slowly, and it really does depend on the actual individual client.
Yeah.
Some clients will benefit from just picking up a kettlebell and start swinging, and within 6 weeks things will be happening.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the back, the erectors, their muscles, they need to strengthen up, so they will strengthen up while swinging. But the flip side of that is that some clients may actually develop better by performing more compound controlled movements like a deadlift, a stiff leg deadlift, possibly a front squat, before getting into a swing.
Okay. Right, let's talk about you a bit more. I know you recently did a crazy 40-day kettlebell challenge. Can you just tell us a bit more about what was involved?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It was just briefly, we were sitting in the office, myself and BJ, business partner, having a bit of a chat, and he's going on about going on a diet for Lent. So me being a little bit of an idiot sometimes says, right, well, I'm going to do 40 lifts for Lent, and he looks at me in a funny way and goes, what are you on about? And I tried to think out the top of my head there, and yeah, I'm going to lift a 40 kg kettlebell for 40 days for 40 repetitions every single day. And he said, all right, then there's a challenge for you. So that's how it came about. So I started on the day one of Lent, and basically it was just something. I think it was a good idea at the time, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be good fun. There's something to challenge me. I'm always looking for challenges and new things to do with training. Otherwise, I do tend to get bored a little bit, and that was excellent. It was basically 40 lifts. It wasn't necessarily all the time 40 repetitions, but I was always using either 1 or 2 40-kilo kettlebells for those lifts. And I was just trying to experiment and do as many different things as I could, from bottoms-up presses, windmills, Turkish get-ups, military presses, jerks, even from the simple, kettlebell chest presses, bent over rows, just everything and anything, and putting it into a program. Not necessarily planning that program, but just seeing what it would do to my body. And it was very interesting. It was a great experiment, and it's led me on to lots of things now from that. That I'm writing some books. Basically, I'm writing an e-book on it now, to discuss the benefits of lifting heavy kettlebells